Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today, are you lying to yourself? Because I know I am. I think this is an interesting topic. I've been thinking about this for a little bit. We often, as human beings, as people, with our own, defined personality, our likes, our interests, our dislikes, the history, what we've gone through. We often like to see enemies in the trees. We like to see the enemies outside, the people trying to bring us down, the adversaries at the club, your high school bully, whatever. We like to see those people as the real enemies, but I think 9 times out of 10, the real enemy is yourself. It's self-deception. It's sort of actively refusing to acknowledge something, or to just say to yourself, no, we're not going to look here. We're not going to look inside. We're going to go hunt for enemies out here. Not in here. Don't look in here. This is fine. No entry. And that kind of self-deception and being able to lie to yourself can really hold you back. And I know, sort of thinking about this topic for the last week or so, sort of reflecting on my own life and how I have gone through my life, I've noticed that, self-deception and lying to myself has been a huge factor in the problems I've dealt with, in situations I've put myself in. It's caused disagreements with relationships I've had. It's done all kinds of stuff. And I want to talk about it today and see if it's just me, or if it's all of us who are sort of deceiving ourselves and maybe holding us back a little bit. So I think the first area that I want to talk about when we talk about the easiest person to lie to is yourself. I think is just the general self-deception, refusing to acknowledge like a problem you might have, or refusing to really try and solve these problems that continually come up in your life. And I think a good area to talk about is the idea of dating. I know I talk about this a lot, but I'm at that age where I'm attempting to date and meet new people. And I think it's really easy to self-sabotage. We talk about self-sabotage quite a bit. It's a growing concern, but how many times in a potential relationship, or you get to know somebody and you start getting into your own head and maybe you start lying to yourself. You might say, well, I'm not good enough for this person, or, this person isn't good enough for me. And you really start to spiral in your own head. You overthink the situation. And suddenly that really nice boy that you went out for coffee with has turned into this sort of giant demon. And he's not a demon. It's your own head sort of saying, oh, he wouldn't work this way. And long term, he's not going to get along with my mother. And he's a vegetarian. How is my dad going to deal with that? So we run into all of these little hiccups that are all self-inflicted. We run into these little lies and these deceptions that really, when you think of it in the grand scheme of your life, they're really irrelevant. I mean, they're not exactly pertinent to day-to-day life. If you really think that a vegetarian is like a non-starter for you, okay, that's fine. But really think about it. Are you self-sabotaging because it doesn't gonna work? Or is it that you have internal problems that you're trying to figure out yourself and you're just not ready for it? And so that's kind of the idea of this, like, self-deception or lying to yourself, and the idea of, oh, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I'm just not good enough. And like I said, we're constantly looking for the demon in the bushes, the monster under the bed, when in reality, I think we are way more critical on ourselves, and we are way harsher than our harshest critic. It comes from within, especially for like a people pleaser or a self-perfectionist. These ideas are really hard to get over, and it's very, very difficult. I mean, it's easy when you think of it to escape like a bully, like a high school bully. For a fact that this bully doesn't have to come home with you. They have their own space, and one day you are not going to be around them. You can move to another town. You probably just won't see each other after graduation. It's not going to be an issue. They're going to go off on their life. You're going to go on yours. But when the intruder is coming from inside the house, the call came from inside the house, it is really hard to escape that. And it is really difficult to critically think about, okay, how am I holding myself back? What exactly am I lying to myself about? And then now I want to talk a little bit about limitation and how we set these limitations on ourselves based on lies that we tell ourselves. And I'm going to start with a really, really basic example. You might have a specific kind of food that you hate. You don't like avocados. You don't like mushrooms or olives or whatever. And I want you to really ask yourself, why do you dislike this thing? Is it because you've just told yourself a million times, oh, I just don't like it? Is it because when you were a kid, you had a bad experience? When I was 6 years old, I tried coconut milk from a brown coconut. And if you don't know, that's not what you're supposed to do. Like the coconut water in a brown coconut is rancid and disgusting. And as a result, I have hated coconut for the last 28 years of my life. And I've only recently started to actually try it and disconnect from the bad memory I had. And I'm like, you know what? This is actually a really nice ingredient. It's really good in chocolate bars. It's really good in different cakes and all kinds of stuff like that. And so ask yourself, are you lying to yourself when it comes to a specific food you dislike? And why exactly do you dislike it? You know, if you go back and try it with an open mind, or you incorporate it into your day every now and then, you might be surprised at how quickly you say, oh my gosh, I actually really enjoy this. And the same thing with bananas. I always disliked bananas. And at 24 years old, I decided I really need to get over this thing. And as a result, I had a banana once a week for about 4 or 5 weeks. And now, love them. There's no problem at all. And so I just got over this self-lie that I told myself of like, well, I'm Jax and Jax doesn't like bananas. And that's just how it is. That makes me quirky. I don't like them. I don't like the texture. And I was just lying to myself for whatever reason. You know, I had this idea that, no, this is my personality. This is who I am. And I don't like this food. And we do this with other people, with opinions we have about politics, religion, the way people act. You know, we have these sort of sensitivities or these self-deceptions about ourselves, and we say, oh, actually, I don't like this. And I don't really know why I don't like this, but I've told myself I don't like this, so I don't like this. And is that really a good basis of creating a personality and existing in the world? Probably not, honestly. Obviously, you're not hurting anybody by not eating bananas. But I think it's just an example that really shows how we hold ourselves back. We prevent ourselves from trying new things, experiencing new things, going out in the world and seizing opportunity, because that is all life is. Life is opportunity. You get to make it how you want it. And if you have these self-deceptions and you're lying to yourself about what you're capable of doing, what you're capable of enjoying, who you think that you might be compatible with, you might wake up and go, oh my goodness, why have I wasted this part of my life? Why have I spent a year dwelling on this thing when I could be moving on and doing something amazing and extraordinary? So that's kind of the basis of this idea. I think it's much easier to deal with deception and deceit when it's coming from another person, when it's coming from an institution, when it's coming from society. It's much easier to sort of internalize it and deal with it and say, well, it's out of my control. I have no power over this thing, so I've just got to learn to live with it, learn to interact with it, learn to just avoid it. But when the call comes from inside the house, when it's coming from your own mind and the little voice in your head saying, you don't like this, why? Why exactly am I lying to myself about this? Why exactly am I preventing myself from enjoying this thing, talking to this person, going to this place, doing this new hobby or this interest? Those kinds of limitations are all set by your own brain, and they're not actually real. You might think like, oh, I don't like olives because the taste is gross. But everything is a acquired taste. And I think that's a really good metaphor for life, is that life is an acquired taste. I know people who were adamantly against tattoos or skydiving or different kinds of food, travel. And somehow they got into it. They stopped lying to themselves and they got into those things, and now they love them. It's a big part of their personality. They're so happy they did it. It was an exciting experience. They don't regret it. They've met new and interesting people. They've tried amazing things. And so I really encourage you to just look at the things in your life that maybe your brain is lying to you. Maybe it's not as bad as you think it is. I think in today's world where everybody is sort of being filed into their own political groups, into their own distinct labels and characteristics, it is so easy to keep that self-deception and that lying going, but it's also incredibly easy to break that cycle. It's also incredibly easy to be a thoughtful human being that looks at things on the basis of an open mind. I think so many people are really afraid that if some of these ideas get out onto the internet or get out into the mainstream, it's going to, it's going to cause another world war or something. But I think you'd be surprised at the level of intrigue and thoughtfulness, and you'd be surprised at how many people would look at these ideas and then go, no, that's ridiculous. Of course I'm not going to do this. Of course I'm not going to do this. And maybe some of these ideas, they'll go, actually, you know what? That's a really great idea. That's going to help a lot of people. Let's look at that. But it's this deception that we hold inside ourselves that is holding us back from really reaching your full potential. And I know you hear all of these stand-up gurus talking about reaching your full potential. And it sounds very motivational speaker, but I think you don't need a motivational speaker to analyze the things in your life and to think about, what am I lying to myself about? And what am I holding myself back from? The world is so much about confidence, putting yourself out there, taking a chance, taking a risk. And when you take a risk and it really pays off, it's one of the greatest things on the planet. It's one of the most powerful experiences of, you look back on that moment and you say, I am so glad I was willing to take that risk or to, go to that place, to talk to this person. The number of times that I have talked to elderly people who have been married for like 60 plus years, and the number of times that they've said, oh, well, I thought she was beautiful, so I went over and I, introduced myself and, we've been together ever since. If you are willing to risk that, I think that's insane. I think if you allow yourself to say, no, I'm not good enough, she'd never give me the time of day, that's crazy, because you have the potential of meeting, the love of your life or an experience that changes your whole world. And so I think you should always be mindful and thoughtful enough to say, you know what, I'm great. I am able to do these things, and I'm not gonna let the little voice in my head put me down, prevent me from doing something, prevent me from reaching what I wanna reach. So that's my 2 cents for today. I hope this resonates with you. I hope you're able to sort of, give yourself the credit and look at what you're doing with your life and go, actually, you know what? I'm pretty great. And I'm not going to deceive myself. I'm not going to think that, I'm the next Jesus, but I'm also not going to put myself down and prevent myself from reaching my potential, reaching where I want to get to. We don't all have to be billionaires on a yacht with Jeff Bezos, but we can be who we want to be, enjoy the things we like to enjoy without feeling this sort of self-deception, this I'm not good enough, they will never be interested in me. It's really possible to get over that and to feel good about yourself and give yourself the honest credit that you deserve. So with that being said, I hope this video finds you in good health. I hope it finds you in a good spirit, good state of mind. Feel free to share some of the examples of lying to yourself and just saying, you know what? I actually deserve credit. I've been through a lot, and I'm not gonna let this hold me back, because really you haven't been held back since. You have survived everything you've ever been through, and that's pretty amazing. So feel free to share some stories like that, what you think. And if you have any other advice on getting over self-deception and lying to yourself. Share it down for everybody else to use. I'm going to be checking this out because there are things in my life that I lie about and that I'm just holding myself back. And I don't know why I'm doing that. And I don't want to be doing that. I want to do more. I want to see more. I want to explore more. So thank you so much. Feel free to follow me on Patreon if you want to talk to me directly, see how I spend my general day and doing all the stuff that I do in a day. And as always, guys, I hope you're having an amazing day, week, month, year, whatever you're having. I hope it's amazing. And as always, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.